All right, so this is the last part of the 1.7 notes. We are looking at the midpoint section. So we're kind of down to now the final piece where we put it all together, apply it to a situation where we're going to be using some algebra now. So a couple things that we have to make sure that we are doing. As math builds on itself, you took a bunch of algebra before you took geometry. The important part of what we're about to look at here, the geometry piece, has to be something that we make sure that you guys are understanding. So if you've got questions on these things for myself or Mrs. Ekholm, of course, we'll help you through anything. You got any questions, but what we really need to see is you being able to set up these equations because that's the geometry piece. If you can set up these equations correctly, then we know that you're understanding what's going on with the midpoints. As far as solving it, if you're doing something wrong in the solution process, that's the algebra piece. That's fine. We'll make sure that we get those things figured out with you. So this first one, find the measure of RT. We're trying to find that measure if T is the midpoint of RQ. So the important statement of this question here, they are telling us that T is the midpoint between R and Q. So what do we know about RT and TQ? If T is at midpoint, then just by this word being involved, it's telling us that these two segments are congruent, which means their lengths are equal. So the equation that you need to set up, right, because we're not going to find RT, we are not going to find this segment until we find X. So the equation that we're going to set up to find X is saying that we're going to take this 2x plus 3, and I know that it is the same length as this 4x minus 5. So I'm going to say 2x plus 3 equals 4x minus 5. What's happening here is that there's two parts of a line that are equal to the entire RQ. There's two smaller segments from R to T that is equal to T to Q. So this is your part. Let me kind of erase this so I've got some more room. That's a small eraser. So we've got one part of the line equaling another part of the segment. So one part of the segment equals the other part. That's what happens when this midpoint shows up. So one of those parts is explained as 2x plus 3. The other part that it is equal to is given as 4x minus 5. So once we're here, this was the geometry step. Now the rest is just algebra. We have to make sure that you can find that x. So this is something that you would have seen in linear algebra in 8th grade, in intermediate algebra in 9th grade. You did a lot of equation solving, and I know because I was there doing a lot of it with you. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 2x first. Of course, there's a number of ways that you can go through this as far as what steps you do first, but we have to get the x's together on one side, so I'm going to cancel that out. I'm left with 3 equals, this is now 2x minus 5. I'm going to add the 5 over, and I'm going to get 8 equals 2x. Last step is to divide by 2, and I'm going to end up with that x equaling 4. Now, one of the things that we find here is that people stop here. In algebra, all you have to do, you find x about 95% of the time, you solve for that variable, and it's done. Okay? That's not what we're looking at here. Remember, we needed to find this segment, the length of that segment, find the measure of segment RT. So I'm going to take this x, I'm going to take this value of 4, that is x, and I'm going to plug it in for x. So now 2 times 4 plus 3, and that will be 8 plus 3, and that will give me 11. So RT, the length of RT, segment RT, is 11. Okay, so that's how you're going to go through that. Now, the next example, same thing. This is the same type of problem. So find the measure of AC. Oop, I take that back. It's a similar type of problem. Find the measure of AC if B is the midpoint of the segment. So similar, they're just looking for a different final answer here, right? So again, I can't find the length of AC until I find this x value. So what we're going to be able to use is the fact that I know AC is equal to BC because they are telling me that B is the midpoint. When that midpoint term is used, you know those two parts then are equal to each other. Okay? So now we can go ahead and say that 5x minus 3. This side a little bit, we'll see. 5x minus 3 is equal to 2x plus 9. Again, that is the red part is equal to that green dotted part. Part equals part because we know with the midpoint involved, it's breaking our line up into two congruent or equal smaller segments. Okay, so the red dotted part is equal to the green dotted part. Part equals part. Now I'm going to go ahead just like I did before. I'm going to actually pause here for a sec. Okay, I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to let you try this. I'm not going to show you all my steps, but I'll show you the final answer, and then we will see if your work matches mine. So pause the video because my pausing is going to come right back to the answer as soon as I hit record again. You paused it and you had a chance to try it. So I went through this process of solving for x. I'm not going to tell you what I got. I want you to try that one. And then using that x, I was able to plug it in here. And I found that the red part, this segment AB, has a measure of 17. So two things can happen here. You can either plug that same x in over here and solve again, and that's how you're going to kind of check your answer. Or if I know AB is 17, because B is the midpoint, that means BC is also going to be 17. So what did they initially ask us? What is the measure of AC, the entire segment? Since both those parts are 17, then that part plus part is going to equal the whole, which will mean 17 plus 17 is going to equal 34. So the measure of AC is 34. So there's some steps in there that I hope you guys were able to try on your own. And then if you got 17 for each of the smaller parts and then the whole of 34, you did that right. Okay? And then lastly, find the measure of PR if Q is a midpoint of PR. So this is the same thing of the problem we just looked at. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this one up, and then the video is going to be done. We'll do the same thing. We'll set it up. I'll pause it for you guys to try it, and then I'll flash the answer, and then we'll wrap this video up, and we'll be done for 1-7. So how we should set this up. So since Q is a midpoint, then I know PQ and QR are going to be congruent. That means these two pieces are the same. Okay, so since PQ is congruent to QR, then I know that 11x minus 4 has to be equal to 5x plus 20. Okay, so you can pause the video quick. I'll be back in a second with an answer for you, and we'll see how this went. Hopefully it paused it, otherwise you're going to see me glitching around here. Through your work, if you found the correct x, you would have found that each segment, PQ and QR, each part would have equaled 40, meaning that PR, the entire segment, would add up with the part plus part equaling that whole of 80. So, any questions, let us know. I know I'm working on making sure these videos can get a little shorter and a little shorter, but feel free to hop around the videos, get what you need, pause, check it out, go from there. So that's 1-7. I hope it helped. I hope it wasn't too unbearably long. Like I said, we're fine-tuning this and learning curve for everybody here. So stay with us. This wraps up our first module, and we'll keep going. Hope it helped, and we'll see you later.